You who so plod amid serious things that you feel it shame to give yourself up, even for a few short moments, to mirth and joyousness in the land of fancy. You who think that life hath naught to do with innocent laughter that can harm no one, these pages are not for you. Hi, I'm Matt Frank, and welcome to Ultraman Day. I'm a comic book artist and illustrator. I have been an illustrator, a professional working illustrator for over 10 years now. Started back in college when I would skip classes to go have good calls with clients. So I'm a hard worker since day one. I've worked on a number of franchises, mostly in the Kaiju and Tokusatsu genre, Godzilla, Gamera, Power Rangers, and of course, Ultraman. I've also worked on some Ultraman adjacent properties such as Redman, which is another Tsuburaya superhero, and I'm currently working on a comic book for Dinosaur War Eisenborg, which is another Tsuburaya property, and hopefully that comic will come out later this year. I'm very, very excited to be here as part of Ultraman Day, and I'm just especially excited because I've been working more and more on a lot of different Ultraman stuff in the last year or so. I've done 2 covers for Marvel. I worked a little bit with Ultraman Kaiju Combat, done some t-shirts for UltramanGalaxy.com, and today I'm here to talk about the Ultraman Kaiju Rumble pinball game. The whole deal with the pinball game and kind of where it comes from, I met with Charlie from Spooky Pinball. We would meet up at G-Fest fairly regularly. G-Fest is a big kaiju fan convention in Chicago. And we had wanted to work together for a while, and eventually, if I remember correctly, I think it was one of the last shows, Charlie came with, he came to G-Fest with a new pinball machine that they had made. It was the Alice Cooper's Nightmare Castle, drawn by an amazing artist, Jeff Zorno. And I remember seeing it thinking like, oh my God, this is so cool. Like seeing it like come to life like that. And that's when I got really aggressive and it's like, we got to do something together. He says, well, I might have something. And then a little while later, Ultraman happened. Spooky Pinball in general got the license to do Ultraman, and they asked me to do the artwork for it. It's one of the things, there's few things in my career I've worked as hard on as the pinball game, and it was just a tremendous experience. Really, really fantastic. Why it was fantastic was simply that I love this genre. I love this franchise in particular. I got my buddy here, but it also presented a very, very unique creative challenge because again, I'd never worked on a pinball game before. I didn't really know what I was getting into, which is not to say that it was it was bad. Of course, it was a lot of fun. It was just one of those things that you never know the challenges until you really get into it. But it was so exciting. A pinball game, a big physical pinball game, is so different compared to a lot of the other stuff I've worked on, like comics and Blu-ray covers and movies and video games and things like that, because your artwork is rarely integrated into this giant physical thing that's also an interactive toy, an interactive experience for the player, for someone to engage with. Pinball itself, there's such an artistry to it that I think is really hard to explain if you're not like a pinball diehard. When working on the inspiration for a game, when working from the ground up, the first most important thing is what's the overall concept. I mean, and that's true for just about anything, especially a game, and especially a game with so many literal moving parts like a pinball game. Charlie and I had to go over a number of high-level concepts of what we wanted to see in it, but it also was heavily dependent on what the mechanics were going to be, and that was largely left up to Spooky Pinball. For me, I had to more or less kind of sit back and wait for my marching orders. There was a little bit of that hurry up and wait mentality that sometimes even goes with filmmaking. For example, early on, I would do these little thumbnail sketches of kind of what I thought the field would look like, and from the beginning, I knew that I wanted there to be this little, if I can get it closer, this little Ultraman, coming up towards the viewer. I wanted there to be, I thought it would be really cool if there were buildings and small figures of monsters and stuff. Definitely want the VTOL from the Science Patrol in there. I knew I wanted a Mount Fuji kind of in the background against the small inner backplate and all that. But again, because it's so dependent on the mechanics, I sort of ran out of directions to go. And so in the meantime, I went and I started focusing on the overall design, which is just what illustrations are going to go where, and especially what monsters are going to go where, because the monsters are the big selling point. I mean, Ultraman himself is the face of the franchise, but the real selling point are the kaiju, are the monsters, you know, guys like Aboras and Gomora, and I got an Oranga here. Going back and of course watching the original show and really getting a feel for what is the overall vibe of the show, and just listening to the soundtrack kind of gets you in that headspace of this fantastical, colorful, just take your logic and throw it out the window, because we don't have any of that here. Just having fun with it. That was the core of what Eiji Tsuburaya wanted for the show. The thing that I knew I had to nail, and as an artist, you're constantly second guessing yourself. You're constantly thinking like, oh man, is this as good as it can possibly be? As the old quote goes, art is never finished, only abandoned. So when you're going from process to process, where you're going from sketch to final piece, a great example would be the back glass itself, which is the main big illustration. You've got stuff like, I've got this little tiny thumbnail sketch that's literally not much bigger than my thumb, just to get a general idea of like, well, Ultraman has to be centered. He's got to be the focal point, but you want to cover the gamut of just this universe, this world, and give a feel for it. I am super proud and super happy with how it came out. Seeing the whole thing together, it looks like just so much fun. You've got all the characters and all the lights, and as a fan, it tickles my brain to no end. That's why I want to get my hands on it. I want to play it so bad. I'm the first fan of the game. People really truly seem to be very excited for it, and I hope people can get their hands on it and play it. Hopefully people's local arcades are going to get some. I'm just very thrilled to be a part of this. I'm thrilled to be part of Ultraman's big American push, because, you know, as a fan growing up, this is something that was really hard to find in America for a long time, and I get to be a part of it. If you want to find more of my work, you can go to mattfrankart.net. That's my big main hub where you can find links to all my other stuff, like my Instagram. I just really hope that more and more people get into this franchise. It's been around for so long. It means a lot to a lot of people, especially me. And I'm really looking forward to what's going to come next.